Hey guys, friendly reminder to sign up for my weekly newsletter using the link in the description, where you'll get one actionable Salesforce tip from me each week. By signing up today, you'll also get a copy of my free guide on how to boost your Salesforce career, with 10 strategies you can implement immediately. These strategies personally help me quadruple my own income, and I know that they'll do the same for you. With that said, let's jump into today's video. Hey everyone, welcome back to Salesforce Made Simple. In today's video, we are going to explain the Salesforce loop element inside of the Salesforce Flow Builder. So, in summary, the Salesforce loop element lets you perform actions repeatedly on a group of records inside Salesforce. So, a couple things to know before we dive into the demo is that loops only work on collections in Salesforce. And a collection is a group of records. So you could kind of think of it as like a cardboard box filled with all the records that you want to perform some action on. The other thing to know is that when you're working with a loop, Salesforce is going to create a record variable to represent the current loop item, and I'll show you that in a minute. There's 3 benefits to know about loops. The first is that it allows you to perform bulk updates in the database. The second is that they let you perform roll-up summaries without actually using a roll-up summary field. So you can loop through different items and do like a calculation, for example. And I'm going to give you a demo of that here. And you can perform multiple actions in a loop. So you could update the stage of a record and also do a calculation in the same loop. 2 things you're going to want to avoid with loops are 1, DML statements. Inside the Flow Builder, that would be a delete operation or an update operation. Actually, also a create operation. So create, update, and delete. You want to avoid those in loops. Those are DML operations. And if you do those in a loop, you could hit the governor limit, and that will cause your automation to fail. The second thing you want to avoid in a loop is a SOQL query. That's Salesforce Object Query Language. In a flow, that's the get element. So that's basically all the elements that you don't want to use is the get, the update, the create, and the delete need to be avoided when you're inside a loop. So let's jump over to Salesforce now, and I already have it pulled open. And I already have this flow, I have a screen flow built. And this is really going to let me highlight some of the key concepts. But I chose to show you a screen flow here. And so the screen flow kicks off, and we're just going to run it in debug mode. But the first element of the screen flow is a get element. And what this element is doing is it's looking up opportunities where the account ID of the opportunity matches the record ID variable. So I'm going to close this window, and then over here in the manager, I made a variable called record ID. And this is going to let me pass in the ID value of an account, and then Salesforce is going to use that ID value to go look up all the opportunities related to that account. And one very important thing to know about this, since we're talking about loops, is that in order to use a loop, you have to have a collection to loop on. So you're going to be looping through records, and you have to have multiple records to do that. And so when you are searching, in this case for opportunities, when I select how many records to store, I chose to store all the records. So instead of selecting only the first record, I'm picking all of them, and that automatically makes a collection inside of the Flow Builder for you to use inside your loop. So after we get all these opportunities, we move on to our loop. I'm going to open that up here, and you can see that this get related opportunities collection variable is required, but it's the same name as the opportunities that we just got. And you can pick a direction with your loop if you want to go from first to last or last to first, and it doesn't really matter in this case, but sometimes you can specify the order. You know, if you wanted to work in order of created date or some other factor like that, you could definitely specify that direction here. But I mean, it's really simple. There's just 2 options. One is what is the collection, and you have to specify the collection that you have that you're going to work with, and then the order. So once you've set those 2 up, you can press done. And this is where we get into the meat of our loop. So the bread and butter, or exactly what the loop is doing. So this loop is going to do 2 things. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to set the opportunity stage for every single opportunity to closed won. And that's an example of performing a bulk update. So I'm going to update every single opportunity to the closed won stage. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I have another variable over here on the left called total opportunity amount. And this variable is going to track the amount of the opportunity for every opportunity related to the account that I started with. So in this example, we're going to use the United Oil and Gas account, and we just want to track the total amount of every single opportunity inside of our loop. And it looks like there's 10 here. So I'll show you that in a minute. But what we do here in the loop is we use assignment elements. So assignment elements and loops work in tandem. You will rarely find one without the other. Well, I should say you will rarely find a loop without assignment elements. And the assignment allows us to do some action or perform some logic while we're inside of the loop. And so I mentioned at the start of the video that this loop is doing two particular things. And the first thing that it's doing is it's updating the stage of every single opportunity to be closed won. And we can see that here in the first line of our assignment, where we're referencing the current item from our loop, and we're setting the stage of that item, which is an opportunity, to closed won. And if I were to remove these values here, I believe the operator, but I can delete out the variable, and I can retype it in just so you can see what that looks like. So if I wanted to set every opportunity to the stage closed won, I could click the variable section, and you see that all the different variables inside the flow pop up, and I can pick this current item from the loop. And this is the variable that Salesforce will automatically create whenever you make a loop. So this is a variable that represents the current opportunity. And going back to our analogy from earlier, where you could think of a collection as a cardboard box filled with records, what we're doing here is we're picking one item out of the cardboard box, and we're like, all right, we're going to work on this one right now. And that's what this assignment does. So when I say loop through the opportunities, that is the actual record for the opportunity. So it's the record variable for the opportunity. And then I need to pick a field on the opportunity that I want to change or modify somehow. And in this case, because we're going to move the stage to closed won, it's going to be the stage field. So I'll select stage name, and then the operator is going to be equals, and the value that I'm going to select just by clicking the value drop down will bring up all the stage values for the opportunity, and I can just pick closed won. And it's really that simple. So we just said, okay, we have this opportunity from our cardboard box, we're going to change the stage to closed won, and that's it for this step of the loop. The second thing that we're doing inside this assignment element, which is not related to changing the opportunity as much as it is related to tracking the opportunity amount. So if you remember, we created, or I mentioned that I had created a variable called total opportunity amount. And that's a number field. And that's going to let us track the amount of the opportunity for all of the opportunities related to this specific account. And I'm going to clear out the section here just to show you how I set it up. So before I built or opened this assignment, or when I was building this loop, I did create a number variable, and I called it total opportunity amount. And I set the default value to 0. So you can just think of this as a number, and it's starting at 0. So I'll select this variable, and then I'll select the add operator. I could set this number equal to something, I can add to it, subtract to it, or use this equals count function. But for now, I'm just going to click add, and then I need to define a value that I want to add to this number. So I could manually type in a value here like 15, and then for each item in the loop, it would just add the number 15 to this amount. I could also do the number 1, and if I did the number 1 here, I would just count the number of iterations that the loop was making, and that's what the output of this variable would end up being. But because I'm looking to track the opportunity amount, I'm going to use that current item from the loop again, and I'm going to select that, so that's the same opportunity that we were just working with, and then I'm going to pick the amount field. And so we can see that the total opportunity amount variable is having the current item from the loop amount added to it. And that's all this assignment does. So we'll press done. And then the second assignment element, where the flow moves inside the loop, is a collection assignment. So once we use an assignment in this first assignment element to update a field value, such as the stage name, we didn't actually update Salesforce. We updated the record inside of our automation, but we didn't actually save that record in the database. And so this assignment, the second assignment, helps us do that. So I've created another collection called Updated Opportunity Collection. And this is a second cardboard box that you could imagine is where we store all the records once we've updated them inside the flow, but we haven't saved them to the database. And just to give you a feel for what that looks like, I just remove the collection here from the variable assignment, but you can see that once I click the variable, I have the option of selecting a updated opportunity collection variable, which is here under the record collection variables. So because I created this in the flow as a collection element, I can select it here, and I can add items to that collection. So in this case, I am going to add the current item from our loop, which is our opportunity, and all I have to do is click it once, and then it will just add the current item from our loop to this updated collection. So I'm going to press done now, and then we go back to the start of our loop, and this is where the loop gets its name. So you can see that we start off at the loop, we go to our first assignment, then we come down to our second assignment, and then we go back to the start of our loop. And Salesforce will keep doing that over and over and over for every single item in our collection. And you can recall that our collection here is defined as every opportunity related to a particular account. And so once we created this collection with our get records, we specified that collection in the loop, and then in the loop we change the stage for each opportunity. We also log the amount inside a variable, and then we add that updated opportunity into a new collection. So it's like we're taking an opportunity out of one cardboard box, we change the stage name, and then we record the amount in maybe a separate notepad, and then we put that opportunity into another cardboard box that we're going to set aside for later to update. And so once we've done that for every single record in our collection, our related opportunity collection, the loop ends. And you can see that here it says after the last item. And so what I've done is I've put a screen element here, and this screen element is set up to tell us the total amount. So it says the total amount of opportunities related to the account you selected is, and then I'm just logging our variable here. And so we'll see how that works in a second. And so that's just a very simple way for us to see that amount after the loop runs. And now we bring our cardboard box of updated opportunities back into the picture, and you can see that we're using an update records element. And in that update records element, we are referencing our opportunity collection called the updated opportunity collection. So we made these assignments in the loop to change the stage name, and then we put that updated opportunity into a separate collection. This is where we save it into the Salesforce database. And this is really simple. I just dragged an update records to the canvas and specified the collection I wanted to update, and that's it. You'll notice I have a rollback records here. This is just for the purposes of debugging. It's going to make sure that we don't actually save all the stages as closed one in the database in case I want to use this dev.org sometime in the future. So with all that said, I'm going to press save again because I know I made some changes. And now we're going to run this flow, and we'll debug it once to see how it works. So in order to get this working, I need to pull an account ID out of the URL. So I'm going to just highlight the United Oil and Gas Corp ID from this URL, just copy that to my clipboard. And I'm going to go back here to our flow. I'm going to press debug. So this will open up in a new window. And the first thing it's going to do is ask me to specify the record ID that is the account that I want to use to find opportunities with. So I'm going to paste in that account ID and press run. And so the loop is going to run through everything, and you can see that over here in the debug details to the right. Now I'm going to scroll up to the top here, and we're going to take it from the top, and I'll explain kind of what each element is doing along the way. So you can see the flow starts. It says how the interview started, gives you some information like Nick Freites started the flow, and we were working with this record ID. The get records element ran, and we found all the opportunities related to that specific account. And so that's this first element here in our flow. Once we have that record collection, and remember it is a collection because inside the get records we selected to store all the records down here at the bottom, we started looping through them. So we just jumped right into the loop. And you can see that we start out where we say loop through the opportunities. And the loop actually displays the collection that we're looping through. In this case, it just consists of a group of IDs, and these are all opportunities related to our account. The debug details also tells us what iteration we're on. So when you start looping, you always start at 0. And in this case, the loop does start at 0, so we're just on current iteration 0 with current iteration item, this particular opportunity. And so we start out with the opportunity, and we move forward with to our assignment element. In our assignment element, we update the stage, and you can see that here right at the top, where we loop through the opportunity stage name, or our record variable called loop through opportunities has the field stage name, and we set that to closed one. We also update our total amount variable by adding that loop through opportunity record variable amount. And you can see the results of those two operations here, where the total amount is now $125,000 and the stage name of the current item in our loop is now closed one. We then move to our second assignment element, where we add that updated opportunity to our collection. And you can see that our updated opportunity collection now contains the ID of that opportunity. And then we go right back to the start of the loop. And you see that the iteration goes up by 1, and we have a new opportunity ID listed as the current iteration item. And now we repeat our assignments. So just as the loop implies, we're going to do all the assignments over and over. And so we update the total opportunity amount again by adding the amount of this opportunity to the previous opportunity. We set the stage to closed one, and then we move to our next assignment where we move this new opportunity into our updated opportunity collection. And you can see in this result field here that our updated opportunity collection now has 2 opportunities in it, one ID for each opportunity that has been processed by our loop. Then we go back to the start of the loop again, and we repeat this process for both assignment elements for every single opportunity that we started out with. So we just keep looping. And again, that's why it's called a loop. So we go all the way through all of the different opportunities that we found in our original get records element. And then once we get down here to the bottom, keep scrolling, you can see that our updated collection gets longer and longer. You can see that the loop through opportunities ended. So that's awesome. Our screen here is now displaying, and it says the total amount of opportunities related to the account you selected is 3,440,000, and it's waiting for us to press next. And so I'll close out this get records, but effectively what we did is we got all the related opportunities, we looped through them all, and now we're at this finish screen where you can see the total amount. When I press next, all the opportunities will be updated in Salesforce, or at least that's how they'll start, and then this rollback element will run and kind of revert the transaction. So back here in the debug, if I press next, we can see in the details that the flow finished, but our update records element ran. And we can see that for each opportunity, the stage name was updated to closed one. And they all have different amounts. And that was the update records firing. And then after that, our rollback records ran, where we reverted all the changes so that my opportunities in this dev org aren't actually all set to closed one. So to recap what we learned, I'll take it back to our document here. We learned a couple things. So we learned that loops only work on collections. So in order to run a loop, we need a collection of records in Salesforce. We learned that loops, when they're running, Salesforce automatically creates a record variable to represent the current loop item. We learned that there's 3 benefits of loops. So we can perform bulk updates. In this example, we updated the stage name of the opportunities for close to 10 opportunities all at once. We learned that we can perform roll-up summaries with loops, and in this example we counted the total opportunity amount with our total op amount variable, and we were able to show that on a screen, but we could just as easily update the account that started our flow with that amount. So we could do a roll up of the total opportunity amount across all opportunities to a single account. And the third benefit, I guess, that we learned about is that one loop can perform multiple actions. And again, this example really showed that because we were able to both update the stage name and perform a roll-up calculation. The two things that we learned to avoid in our loops are DML statements. So specifically on the canvas, those would be, I'll go back to the canvas, the create records, the update records, and the delete records. And then the other item that we want to avoid is the get records. So we don't want to do any DML operations or SOQL queries inside our loop. Instead, we use assignments. And so assignments are the proper way to do it because it avoids hitting the governor limits. Hey guys, hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments what other Flow videos you'd like to see, and make sure to like and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. If you're interested in learning more about Salesforce Flows, make sure to check out my course on Udemy. There's a link in the description. It has over 8 hours of in-depth Salesforce Flow tutorials designed to turn you into a Flow ninja. With that said, have a great day.